There's a truth about women that we're too afraid to say out loud. We are taught to shrink so we don't scare people. We are praised for our silence and punished for our strength. And the most brutal part, sometimes the ones who silence us are the very people we love. I remember being 8 years old at a family gathering, interrupting the grown-ups to share something I was excited about. My uncle looked at me, not unkindly, but with that familiar mix of amusement and correction, and said, "Shh, don't be so loud. It's not ladylike." I didn't know exactly what ladylike meant at that age, but I felt the sting of those words. I felt my excitement shrink. I felt my voice get caught in my throat. That was the first time I learned that my enthusiasm, my voice, my too muchness wasn't welcome. And it didn't stop there. It never does it? Little by little, in small moments like that, we are taught to build our cage. We learn that being a good girl means keeping the peace, not making a fuss, not drawing attention to ourselves. We learn to swallow our opinions, smile when we're uncomfortable, and stay quiet even when we want to scream. Maybe you felt it too, that invisible pressure pressing down on your chest when you want to speak up in a meeting or when you want to say no to yet another request that drains you. Maybe you've caught yourself apologizing for things that aren't your fault, apologizing for taking up space, apologizing for existing too loudly. And the hardest part? The world rewards us for this. The quieter we become, the more they call us easy to work with. The more we suppress our needs, the more they call us selfless. We get praised for being agreeable, for being nice, for being accommodating. Until one day, we don't recognize ourselves anymore. Psychology has a name for this: relational conditioning. From the time we are little girls, we're conditioned to believe that our worth comes from how well we meet the expectations of others, that our value lies in how pleasing, how helpful, how small we can be. And this conditioning runs so deep that many of us don't even realize we're in a cage. We decorate it, we make it comfortable, we tell ourselves, this is just how life is. But here's the brutal truth. Many of us don't realize how tightly we've been holding ourselves in until the day we wake up gasping for air, wondering where our voice went, where our joy went. And maybe no one ever told you this, so let me be the one to say it. You were never meant to fit into anyone else's idea of a good girl. You were meant to be whole, loud, brave, free. My heart pounded as I spoke, trying to steady my voice, trying to sound confident. But as soon as the words left my mouth, they seemed to disappear into the room, like they were weightless, invisible. No one responded. No one even looked up. And then, minutes later, a man at that table, someone who hadn't stayed up late, who hadn't wrestled with the details, who hadn't second-guessed himself even once, repeated my idea almost word for word. And this time, heads nodded, pens scribbled notes. The room came alive. I sat there in stunned silence. My face burned with shame. And do you know what my first instinct was? To blame myself. Maybe I hadn't said it right. Maybe my timing was off. Maybe I really wasn't good enough. This is the silent grief of being overlooked. It happens in boardrooms, living rooms, classrooms. It happens to women who give and give and give and still somehow feel like they are unseen. It's that gut-wrenching ache of showing up, of pouring your heart into something and realizing no one noticed. Or worse, they noticed, but they didn't value it because it came from you. Psychologists call this role engulfment. It's when the roles we play, mother, wife, employee, caretaker, peacemaker, swallow up our identity so completely that people stop seeing us as individuals. They see what we do for them, not who we are. And the brutal part? Sometimes we're complicit in our own invisibility. We've been taught to believe that being overlooked is just the price we pay for being kind, for being supportive, for being good. We've been told that our job is to make others shine, not ourselves. But let me tell you something that no one says out loud because it makes people uncomfortable. You can love your family. You can be loyal to your friends. You can show up fully at work and still grieve the fact that no one sees the real you. Both can be true, and that grief, it deserves your attention because it's not selfish to want to be seen. It's human. It's necessary. It's your soul's quiet cry saying, please don't forget me. I think one of the most painful lessons I've learned, one that no one prepares you for, is that sometimes the deepest wounds don't come from strangers or men in positions of power. They come from other women, from people you trusted, from people you believed would stand beside you, protect you, lift you. I remember a time when I was part of a group of women at work, women who talked about supporting each other, about breaking glass ceilings together. I believed in that sisterhood. I believed we were all in it together. But when the opportunity for a promotion came, something shifted. Whispers started, small jabs disguised as jokes. Someone I had confided in shared my personal struggles in a meeting to make me look weak. And when I got the position, the congratulations felt forced, like they were covering up resentment they didn't want to admit was there. It's heartbreaking because no one warns you about that kind of betrayal. No one tells you that sometimes the people who are supposed to have your back might secretly hope you fail because your success feels like their failure. And it's not because they're bad people. It's because we've been raised in a world that taught us there's only so much room at the top, that taught us to see each other as competition instead of allies. There's a term in psychology called internalized oppression. It's when people who've been marginalized, dismissed, or disempowered start to turn the very systems of oppression inward and on each other. We've been fed the lie that there's not enough space for all of us to rise. So we scramble, we compare, we undercut, we judge. And let's be honest, we don't talk about this, do we? Because we're afraid of looking bitter. Because we want to believe in the fairy tale of female solidarity, and admitting this cracks that illusion. But here's the brutal truth I've had to face in my own life. Until we heal the shame and scarcity that tells us we are not enough, we will keep wounding each other in quiet, devastating ways. We need to stop pretending that all women automatically support all women. We need to stop shaming ourselves for feeling hurt when they don't. And we need to do the hard, healing work of learning to stand together, not from fear of each other, but from love. From knowing that my rising doesn't mean you're falling, that your light doesn't dim mine, that there is room always for both. And I'll never forget the day I got a promotion I'd worked years for. Late nights, missed birthdays, sacrifices I didn't even realize I was making at the time. I should have been celebrating. I should have felt proud. But instead, I sat in my car afterward, parked in a quiet corner of the lot, and cried. And they weren't tears of joy. They were tears of guilt, of shame, of that awful, heavy feeling in my chest that whispered, "Who do you think you are to want more?" It sounds strange, doesn't it, that success could make you feel ashamed, that reaching for something bigger could feel like betrayal. But for so many women, that's the reality no one talks about. We're taught from an early age to take care of everyone else first, to put our dreams second or third or last. We're taught that ambition is only acceptable if it doesn't inconvenience anyone, if it fits neatly into the margins of what's expected of us. And so when we dare to want more, more space, more peace, more success, more freedom. We don't just face resistance from the world. We face it from inside ourselves. That inner voice shaped by generations of conditioning that tells us to stay small, to stay grateful for what we have, to not rock the boat. Psychologists call this imposter syndrome. That persistent belief that we're not really worthy of the good things we've earned. But for women, especially, it's deeper than that. It's learned self-betrayal. It's the way we apologize for wanting, the way we minimize our needs so we don't make others uncomfortable, the way we pretend we're satisfied even when our hearts are aching for something more. And here's the brutal, heartbreaking truth. There is no prize for dimming your light so others can shine. There is no honor in shrinking yourself to fit into the tiny box someone else built for you. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to dream wildly, to pursue fiercely, to take up space in rooms where people didn't expect you to walk in. Your longing for more isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's the voice of your soul remembering who you were before the world taught you to be small. And if no one has given you permission, let me be the one to say it. You don't need permission. Want what you want. Chase it, build it, and let the world adjust. There was a night, I can remember it so clearly, when I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, long after everyone had gone to bed. The house was quiet, and I just stared at my reflection, trying to find myself in my own eyes. But what I saw, looking back at me, felt like a stranger. A woman who had spent so long being what everyone else needed her to be that she had forgotten what it felt like to simply be herself. I saw the exhaustion in my face, not just from work or family or responsibilities, but from years of hiding parts of myself to make other people comfortable. From biting my tongue when I wanted to speak, from saying yes when I wanted to scream no, from dimming my joy, my brilliance, my voice, because I was terrified of being too much or not enough. And in that moment, the grief hit me like a wave. The grief of losing myself a little bit at a time. The grief of realizing I had abandoned parts of me that were once so vibrant, so alive. And maybe you know that feeling too. That moment when you wonder, when did I stop recognizing the person I've become? Reclaiming yourself after all of that isn't easy. It's terrifying because it means looking at all the places where you've settled. It means acknowledging the relationships where you've made yourself small, the jobs where you've played safe, the dreams you've put on a shelf and convinced yourself were too much or too late. Psychologists talk about self-actualization, that process of becoming who you really are beneath the masks, beneath the roles, beneath the expectations, but they don't always tell you about the messy middle. The part where reclaiming yourself feels like breaking apart before you can put yourself back together. Because here's the brutal truth. The world is far more comfortable with the version of you that stays quiet, that stays small, that stays easy. So when you start reclaiming yourself, when you begin speaking your truth, setting boundaries, going after what you really want, don't be surprised if people push back. Don't be surprised if they call you selfish or difficult or changed, because you have changed. And that's not something to fear, that's something to honor. The courage to reclaim yourself is the courage to disappoint people in order to stay true to you. The courage to stand in your own light, even if it blinds the ones who are used to your shadow. The courage to say, I will no longer abandon myself to keep the peace. And if you're standing at that mirror tonight, wondering where you went, know this, you're still in there, and she's waiting for you to come home. So I'm asking you now, not as a speaker, not as an expert, but as a woman who's been where you are. Where have you been shrinking? And what would happen if just for today you chose to stand tall?